Welcome back, everybody, to the Totally Unqualified podcast. We got a great episode for you guys today. I am, of course, joined by my great co-host, Luke Rosenthal. Gage, unfortunately, couldn't be here today. I had some family matters to attend to, but we are super excited to welcome on the podcast, growing TikTok star, Mr. Adam Breneman. Thanks for being on here.
Woo. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm not quite the star that Jake is, but I'm trying to get my followers more in your range.
Well, listen, you're a great substitute for Gage, our other co-host on the podcast. So
absolutely.
He's missing out.
You got verified though recently on TikTok, so that's something I haven't done. So how's that feel? How's it feel to have the blue check mark right next to your name?
It feels good, man. I mean, it's funny. I've been hitting up some of the team I work with that produces a lot of my stuff. I've been like, man, you guys got to get me verified. What are we doing? And it's funny. It's actually funny because I was just like, I was on TikTok and I was on the phone with one of my friends who also does some content stuff. And I was like, yeah, maybe sweet just to get verified because, I think that would help with like engagement and like maybe get more followers from it. And I just like popped up like right as I said. I like manifested it just popped right up. But no, man, it's cool. It's been the TikTok thing's been fun. It's new for me. I haven't, I'm just kind of learning about it. But I work with some good people that know this stuff pretty well. So it's funny because I'll come up with these ideas and they're like, that's not going to do well on TikTok.
Well, listen, you're absolutely killing the game. The stuff that you're producing,
100%,
highest quality. It's been awesome.
So we start every episode with a guess that NFL player. So I'm going to give you guys some hints. So if you want to play along, that'd be awesome. I got somebody here that you both should know. Adam, I don't know. I judge you a little bit if you didn't know this guy. So that's the only hint. That's the only hint I'm giving you. That's the only hint I'm giving you.
No, are we guessing? Are we asking? Are we doing
I'm gonna give you guys some hints here. All right. So this is a former NFL player currently not playing. Okay. He was undrafted in the 2010 NFL draft. He played for one team for his entire NFL career. He won a Super Bowl. Okay. And he played at one of Adam's colleges that he attended. Not going to tell you which one.
Okay. Could we get an offense or defense here?
All right, it's definitely Penn State because there wouldn't be anyone from UMass. 2010 they got drafted.
Am I wrong? It's UMass. It's UMass.
Oh,
I'll give you that one.
Wait.
Yeah. I
I'm
figured
lost.
that would make it easy because there's not too many players from UMass.
How long did he play?
He played 7 seasons.
7 seasons.
2010.
Undrafted in 2010. Got picked up.
Wait.
I'm lost.
Dude, I don't know who that. Wait, hold on. Let me think about this for a second. Undrafted 2010 from UMass, got picked up. You didn't give us a position. 2010.
Offensive player.
UMass.
I feel like if I give you the position.
Victor Cruz.
It is Victor Cruz. It is Victor Cruz.
That was easy. Dude, give us a hard one, man.
That was a hard one. It's easy. It took you 5 minutes.
That was good. Now he's officially on the scoreboard of
he
guess
is
that
officially
player.
on the scoreboard. I thought that one would be interesting because there's not a lot of NFL players from UMass. Obviously, Adam, you would have been one of them, but not a ton of talent coming out of UMass as of lately, especially. Been some down times for that program. Hopefully,
for sure. It's been tough, man.
Hopefully, it gets a little better. All right, Adam. So we'll just go into some questions here. So obviously you popped off on TikTok recently. Amazing production there with your team. So I just kind of want to talk to you about your production team and how'd you find them? Cause I just want to say they are top notch. They do awesome work. Yeah. You guys do awesome work on there. And kind of where did the idea for your TikTok start? And kind of where'd you find this crew that, you've kind of been partnered with here that's kind of been driving this engagement?
Yeah. So, it's funny. I had done some media stuff before. Before really I started coaching, I was doing media. I had a podcast, which was kind of like a half-assed podcast. It wasn't very good. And I had a radio show on CBS Sports talking Penn State football, and I did a bunch of like color commentary on ESPN or ESPN3 and ESPN2. So not like the real ESPN, but so I did some media stuff, and then I kind of made the decision I wanted to kind of get back into it. I've always been a guy that I like to do a bunch of different things. Like when I just have to be focused on like one thing, I struggle. I like to like have my hands in this and have my hands in this, and I've always loved media and like the content game, but I'd never really been in it. And kind of decided I wanted to start up this podcast that I wanted to, I call it a podcast, really like a video, like podcast type show. And just kind of highlight some of the relationships I've had with a lot of guys, and just kind of like, just interview some, whether it's athletes, influencers, guys that I got to know. And when I was looking at like who was going to produce it, I was kind of looking all over the place. And one of the guys I've gotten to know through my football connections is Jordan Palmer. Jordan Palmer is blown up on TikTok, as you probably have seen.
Yeah.
So one day I just hit up Jordan and I was like, dude, who's doing your stuff? Like who does your TikTok stuff? And he sent me the company I work with now called Grit Player Services, Grit, like GRIT, Grit. And kind of just started talking to them, and yeah, that's who produces my show now, who produces a lot of my TikTok stuff. I wasn't even thinking TikTok when we started talking. I was thinking YouTube and like, my show, but they were the ones that were like, dude, like the attention is on TikTok. Like you'll be amazed that if you pop off on TikTok, like everything else just kind of takes care of itself. Like you start getting more followers on Instagram, you start getting more subscribers on YouTube, and it just kind of all starts with TikTok. So that was news to me, but they've been really good, and they do a good job. And it's been fun for me to just kind of like tell stories from my recruitment, from my career, give some advice to kids. A lot of my followers are like high school players trying to get recruited. And, but yeah, it's been exciting. I mean, it's been interesting, like just to watch like how, videos go viral on TikTok, and like just to watch, it's definitely like an adrenaline rush. Like when you're not used to TikTok 100%. And you post your first video that gets 1 million views, you're like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been exciting. And just kind of, it's been a lot of time and effort put into it, from me and from my team for sure. But I'm excited to keep it growing.
Yeah, TikTok. I think it's because of the shorter form content. That's how people can find you. And then just going directly to your page, like easy to go and find your Instagram and your YouTube. And that's how you grow your overall following across all social media platforms. So going back to your playing days, I was actually, to tie it into to your media career, what was the transition like when you found out you weren't able to play football anymore? You said you did more media stuff before you went into coaching. What was the transition like going from your playing career, then to coaching, and then obviously now in media?
Yeah. It was obviously tough, in two different sides of it. The first side is I thought in my mind that I was going to be playing for a long time, and really believed that I was going to be able to figure it out. At the same time, I knew that my knee was bad, and I knew that it was deteriorating, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to. I knew that if I was going to play for a long time, or have a decent NFL career, I was going to need another surgery. I was going to need some more, high level therapies to figure out how to keep playing. My senior year at UMass, which was one of my best seasons, I had 70 catches, was an All-American. I wasn't practicing. I was getting, I have a video coming out actually, I think like tomorrow, next couple of days on TikTok, about my process of playing my last year at UMass. I used to get injected with painkillers before every game to be able to play. They give me like a shot in my butt right before the game, like just like crazy stuff that I was doing to be able to play. And once I started training for the NFL, I realized pretty quickly, like I can't run. Like without painkillers, I couldn't run we did a when you start training for the combine, on one of your first days of training, you do baseline testing day. So they test you as soon as you start, so then they can compare it, at the end. So we're doing baseline testing day, and they're like, all right, like let's run a 40. So I stretch out and I'm ready to run my 40, and I like start running, and I'm like limping on my run. And my trainer's like, why are you running like that? Like, can you just run like normal? And my time was like terrible, like 5.2, like, and I'm like, dude, I literally can't run. Like I can't run without this painkiller. My knee was so bad. And so that was kind of the beginning of it for me. I was like, man, this is bad. And I knew, at that point, it becomes a lot of discussions as far as like, okay, I have a Senior Bowl invite, I have a combine invite, I can't play the Senior Bowl, but we also can't tell anyone I can't play the Senior Bowl. Because now at that point, my mindset and my agent's mindset and my family's mindset and everyone involved with, my successes, get to the NFL without anyone knowing how bad your knee really is. And once you get there, you tell them you can't practice, you're on contract, you go get surgery, and they fix you up. Even though even the outlook of surgery isn't great, it's you're at least getting paid and you're in the league. But we realized pretty quickly that's just not feasible with the NFL technology and doctors and things like that. So, and I tell you that story just to say, like, I thought I was going to play for a while, but I also kind of knew that there was a chance I couldn't. So I was prepared, I feel like throughout my career for the day that football was going to end. And that doesn't mean to say it's any easier, and I kind of jumped right into a few different things, had a few different jobs, was doing some, just kind of, it was doing some entrepreneurial investing things and did the media stuff. And then that's when the coaching opportunity came about, and I just kind of jumped right into that. But I think for me, like, there was always things in life I wanted to do other than just play football. Which I'm thankful for. Like it was never just like my pinnacle of my life for me was like always like I wanted, was to play football in the NFL, but also to like, build a company and be, build, make a lot of money and have a good family. So like there were other things I cared about.
Life
that
after
always
football things. Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought about that kind of stuff. And that's one of the reasons I took school really seriously and like got my master's degree when I was playing and, always was networking. One thing that I always tell guys is like, you'll never be more relevant than you are when you're playing football and like in your life, maybe some people may like be the exception there, but for the most part, like you won't be as relevant or as popular as you were playing football for the rest of your life. So like use that notoriety to like form relationships and networking. And like, it's so much harder for me right now to get a call back from guys than it was when I was playing. Like when I was playing, everyone answered my DMs. Now it's like I still get responses, but I don't get a ton of. I mean, a lot of guys don't want to be back anymore just because I'm, you're not playing anymore. So, it's a long-winded answer to your question, but yeah, it's kind of, it wasn't easy, but it's also wasn't the end of the world for me making that transition.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you just honestly, I feel like, especially on TikTok, it's a platform we've both been on for a couple of years now. People are a little ruthless when it comes to athletes trying to start a career and they don't really know them because they just assume, you sucked and like, this is just your, option number two. You have such a unique story because you are a 5-star tight end, one of the top 50 recruits in the nation. You go to a Big Ten school, Big Ten football school, number 1 tight end coming out, I believe. So you are this big player. You have you have a big freshman season at Penn State. You have 2 injury-riddled seasons. Then you go to UMass, have some awesome seasons there. And then we're one of the projected, top tight ends to be taken in that year's NFL draft. So you are not one of these athletes that people may not know because you just got in the league and stunk it up. No. Like you are somebody that, football was right there, but you had to, something very unfortunate happened, but, you didn't quit. You just took it, ran with it, and kind of, pivoted your career into something where you can make, another career out of it. So that's something, it's stories like this that I really like to just, when I'm looking you up, just through your TikTok, I go to Penn State, but I personally hadn't heard of you. So I was like, let me look this guy up just from seeing that one video about your recruitment, which we'll touch on in a second. I look you up and I see your story, and it was just so, it's so powerful to see that, you didn't let it get you down. What were those days like? If I, just take us into your mindset when you're, meeting with the doctors, when you're with your trainer, when you're with your agent, and you realize, this might be the end of the road, when you had to retire from football, something you've always been one of the best at, you thought you were going to the NFL, when you had to retire from football at 22 years old, like what was going through your head there?
Yeah. There were a lot of moments during my career, really after I had my first knee injury that, weren't great. And, it all kind of, came to a head at that time after my senior year at UMass. I remember, after my my knee injury really started after my freshman year at Penn State. So I had my freshman year at Penn State. My knee, I had hurt both my knees. My right one I hurt in high school. I just did a TikTok on my right knee today. But that one I repaired and was fine the rest of my career. To this day is fine. After my freshman year at Penn State, we're in spring practice. James Franklin just came in to be our head coach. We're in spring practice, and I fall on my left knee and practice. Now this is my healthy knee. Fall on my left knee, and it starts to swell up, but nothing terrible. Like, can't really figure out what's wrong with it. A few weeks go by, it's still kind of bothering me a little bit, but I'm practicing and like trying to figure it out. But like my knee's swelling up a little bit. Well, eventually the trainer's like, well, let's go get an MRI on your knee just to make sure everything's good. And during the MRI, they see that a piece of cartilage chipped out off my left knee where your bone on bone. So pretty rare thing, but I had basically articular cartilage damage in my left knee. Same injury that I always tell people this. It was the same injury that Greg Oden had when he tried to play in the NBA.
Oh, wow.
Remember Greg Oden got drafted and could never play. So same injury he had. But now since that time, they've made some more, it's really, anytime you have cartilage damage, it really ends careers a lot of the time in the NFL. Yeah. Like if you have cartilage damage, it's like this guy can't, he doesn't have much longer to play. But since that time, when Greg Oden had it, they've made some new advances in technology to like do surgery on it, things like that. But, it was that moment when I first found out about my knee, and then, I couldn't play then for 2 years after that. And then I got to UMass and it felt better all of a sudden. And just kind of, it was tough because it deteriorated pretty quickly my senior year. Like I thought it was kind of over with, and I thought maybe it was finally going to be fine, but even with my knee being fine, I still was missing that cartilage in my knee the whole time. I always knew that in the back of my mind. But at the end of the day, we were traveling around. I saw Dr. Andrews, the famous doctor. Went all over the place trying to see doctors and get options. And, it just became clear pretty quickly that like, there just wasn't a feasible option. Even for me to get a surgery, the surgery that they could do, it would have been the second time I had that surgery. And even the chances then of like, people kept saying, why don't you just get surgery? Well, like I would have to get surgery. I would not get picked up by an NFL team because I had this surgery, and then try again a year later to try to play in the NFL, with no guarantee that the knee was going to be healthy or that team would even pick me up. So it didn't make a lot of sense at the time to get that surgery. Sorry. But yeah, it was a tough process, but kind of ended with the realization that you just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Now, going back to your high school days, you actually made a really, really interesting TikTok. This is how I actually found out about you, is when you tore your ACL in your senior year of high school, right before you were about to go to Penn State. Now, looking towards, the NFL side of things in this upcoming draft, someone who's in a similar position as you, sort of not exactly, is Jameson Williams, who obviously tore his ACL and is now going into the NFL draft, and he's going to be projected to go in the first round. How did that affect you mentally? And how do you think that'll affect someone like him mentally, whereas he is going into, going to get drafted by a team and make millions? How do you think that affects, him mentally?
Yeah. I mean, I think from an ACL standpoint, like it's not what it used to be anymore. I mean, you guys get it and come back right away. You're looking at like Saquon just had it, and I know he's feeling good. And, I think really it shouldn't affect you all that much. I mean, it affected me for probably, 8 months after surgery. I was kind of like not myself, but once you're back and you're not really thinking of it. So like I said, my ACL injury was like the easiest thing I ever dealt with. It was really my other knee that ended up being a big problem for me. And if you would have told me like, oh, would you rather tear your ACL or chip a piece of cartilage off your knee? I would have taken an ACL tear a million times because I would have came back from that. You can tear your ACL 5 times to come back, but
sure.
But yeah, I mean, shoot, in Jameson's case, I mean, I think we're going to see in the draft, like not too many teams really care all that much about an ACL tear anymore. And, especially with the level of training and rehab that they'll do in the NFL, with the guys they have on the training staff. So I think I think it's just not what it used to be. 20 years ago you tore your ACL, you were, it was kind of almost the end of your career.
And how long did it take you to feel like comfortable running on that leg after the ACL tear, where you're able to trust, it's not going to happen again?
Yeah, I think it was probably like 7-8 months was when I came back. I did it July of my senior year in high school, and then ended up I enrolled early at Penn State, so went to Penn State in January, and I think I was practicing like half speed in spring practice. So it come like March time, I was like half speed, like not really going full out, and then was full go by summer camp. So like a year later. So by 12 months, I was, totally fine. 8-9 months was like feeling pretty good, like, ready to go. And now guys do it much quicker than that too. We were kind of going slow because I was young and didn't need to be ready until the fall, but nowadays guys come back in 6 months,
Yeah. True.
So speaking of your high school days, I kind of want to get into your recruitment here specifically because, Penn State was recruiting you at a very dark time in the program's history. We don't need to mention it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And just a 5-star player, sees what Penn State is going through. New head coach had come in. Was Bill O'Brien there when he was recruiting you? Was that the one? Yep. Okay. So Bill O'Brien's in there recruiting you, first time coaching change in 40, 50 years for Penn State. You're getting 32 pieces of mail from Ole Miss every single day. Like the TikTok story goes, you take a visit to Ohio State. We won't mention that. But what did you trust in that Penn State team? What did you see in Bill O'Brien's team there that drew you to Penn State? Even though they were going through kind of an, unprecedented time in college athletics.
Yeah, it was, I committed to Penn State during my junior year. This was after the scandal had broke, but no sanctions had come out yet. So Bill O'Brien had gotten hired. As soon as Bill O'Brien got hired, I went and met with him. And, I was from Pennsylvania or am from Pennsylvania. So I was an hour down the road from Penn State, grew up a Penn State fan, grew up a Joe Puff fan. Awesome. Met with Bill O'Brien, and he was like, well, we're going to use you like Gronk and Hernandez. Like, we're going to, he just came from the Patriots. So, we were just, I was like enamored with Bill O'Brien and like, I can play at Penn State and blah, blah, blah. So I go to Penn State, and then come July of that year, I think it was, July of my senior year of high school, or before my senior year is when the sanctions break from the NCAA. So, Mark Emmert has his press conference and announces probably some of the worst sanctions in NCAA history. And, quite frankly, just ridiculous sanctions that hurt a football program and a team and players that had nothing to do with what went on, years ago. But, don't get me fired up on that topic, but it was really for me and for some of the other guys in that class. I think I trusted Bill O'Brien. I trusted that he was, that he was going to be able to hold that place together. But I think also what wasn't lost on us was, the opportunity to be part of something bigger than just you, and to be part of something bigger than just football. I think that, whether it's, in hindsight, when you're young, you really think you're a lot more important than you really are. I think when I look back to how I thought about myself when I was 17 years old, you think that the whole world revolves around you, right? So I think in the moment, like it felt very grandiose to us. And like, we felt like we had this like obligation to like help hold this program together. And in hindsight, I think that we did have a role in that. And I think that our class staying there throughout that, was helped the stability of that program. But it's funny looking back on it, because we definitely thought it was like we were the ones saving the program when I was 17 years old. It's just funny, when you're young, you just think that as you get older, you just realize that nothing's as important as you think it is in your head. But really, I think for us back then, it was just a crazy time, man. I mean, people who didn't live through it or weren't in our situation just like won't understand. And I was talking to Christian Hackenberg today about this on the phone. Right before I got on with you guys, I was talking to Christian, and just like the pure craziness that was going on around that scandal and around that town. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's a scandal that has been like it, and really I can think of in like college sports. Just such a sensitive subject, so many people involved. It impacted so many. I mean, I remember being in high school and just being at the football games, and like, I'm a high school football recruit, and like me and Christian Ackenberg and those guys would be there. And I'm telling you right now, like, every single person knew who we were, and we were in high school at those games. I mean, like, we'd be like walking on the field, like for pregame and high school recruits, and like people were like chanting our names, student sections chanting our names. And like, we're just like, and it wasn't because of anything we did in football. It was just because they were just thankful that we were still going there, because the whole world was shitting on Penn State.
Oh, wow.
And everyone was just talking about how Penn State won't be able to field a team. I mean, if you ever look up, after this, look up like what the media was saying when the sanctions came out. Like, people were tweeting, like reporters were tweeting like, Penn State won't field a program for 5 years. Penn State just turned into Temple. And I do think this too. I think that there aren't many programs in college football that could go through what Penn State went through and come out on the other side of it. And I always talk about this, and I tweeted something about it like 2 years ago, and I got a bunch of flack for it. It's crazy to me how no one, now that 10 years has gone by, it's kind of almost in hindsight, but 7 years after the sanctions, 5 years after the sanctions, Penn State's going to Big Ten championship game. I mean, just doing some crazy things, and the expectations are so high. And I think that no one, people forget that, like, just a few years ago, that place was like losing 40 scholarships and was at the death penalty essentially. And it's just crazy to think about where it is now. And I don't think there's many programs that could have survived what Penn State survived. I think there's a handful. I think Notre Dame could probably do it, but most programs couldn't. I mean, that community and that place, stuck together during the darkest time in, recent college football history.
Yeah. Like you said, you didn't think other programs would be able to survive. I think that speaks to you and your teammates just as players and people. Like, you had to build that foundation, and, Penn State has been thriving over the past, 5-6 years.
Not so much over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean,
that's okay.
Well,
that's
I mean, much to my chagrin.
We'll,
I mean, I'm
we'll
a Wisconsin
back.
guy.
We'll
I'm a Wisconsin guy. So, but yeah, I think that speaks to you as a player. You went through there in the thick of it, and came out, even better than you went in, or the program was even better than when you went in. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain on this year's NFL draft. There's, it's coming up. What is it? The 7th. So we got about 3 weeks left. As a scout and as a coach, probably a month ago or so, we saw Kayvon Thibodeau's name in the news. He's falling down draft boards after being, a top 2 projected player. Him and Aiden Hutchinson were fighting for that number 1 edge spot. Why do you think he's falling down draft boards? Is it just because of his underperforming combine, or what do you think entails in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Thibodeau, he's obviously a special dude, and I don't think he's going to. I think we're going to see him drafted pretty high. I know there's been a lot of talk about him falling down draft boards and things like that. But I mean, he's a special dude. Just coming from the Pac-12, I obviously know a lot about him and him as a person. I know his combine wasn't as good as everyone thought it was going to be, but I mean, you turn on the tape and that guy is so disruptive on the edge. I do think that Aiden Hutchinson goes before him. Obviously, I mean, that's kind of like the consensus now, but I mean, I think really at the end of the day, I mean, Thibodeau's a generational talent. I mean, it's hard to find. Someone's gonna get him pretty early on. It's going to be interesting how the quarterback thing shakes out, and how that, if anyone else trades up, or how that ends up playing out. But I would be shocked if Thibodeau's there, past. I'd be shocked if he's there past 4. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I think he goes pretty early, and he's a special dude, man. I mean, he's a freak. It's hard to find guys like that, and I'm not saying how he'll be in the league, but you do know that like teams overreach for guys like that. You know, they're willing to reach a little soon to get a guy like that, because if you let a guy like him slide, you know, as a GM, that's one of the guys that could end up, you know, kind of like you know, what's the receiver? Every time that everyone talks about how the Eagles Jalen Reagor and who was it? DK?
Justin Jefferson.
Oh, Justin Jefferson. Yeah,
Yeah.
not DK. Yeah, like kind of like one of those situations. You know, you'll end up with one of those. But, but yeah, the draft's gonna be interesting, man. It's an interesting class. I mean, obviously the quarterback thing's super intriguing, and you know, Kenny's a good buddy of mine, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. You know, see where he ends up. But yeah, it's going to be a fun end of April.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of Kenny Pickett, he was your first guest on your brand new podcast. Adam Breneman shows up, and I listened to a few episodes. Absolutely awesome. Watch them on YouTube.
Appreciate it.
Great production quality. It's such an awesome concept, and like, you did not just, you know, come out with a slow start. You're coming out of the fences swinging here. Like, you come out with Kenny Pickett, then Pat Fryermuth, then Chase Edmonds. Like, these are some heavy hitter guests that you kind of showing up for. So just tell us about, you know, your conversation with Kenny. Obviously, we saw some of the clips on your TikTok. If anybody hasn't, you know, watch those, go watch it. It's a great podcast. You wouldn't even know that it had just started. You would think you're 5 years into this. So just talk about, you know, meeting Kenny Pickett and what he's like, and how successful you'll think he'll be, and whether the hand size, which I know you guys talk about, whether the hand size is actually a concern.
Yeah. So, I mean, I appreciate the kind words about the podcast. It's been fun. Just, you know, I feel like part of the reason I wanted to do it was to be able to kind of let the guys tell their story and show their personalities, and in a different way than you may do on, you know, the Colin Cowherd show, or on, you know, on some show like that. So, you know, Kenny, I've known Kenny actually for a while now. So Kenny used to train with my high school head coach.
Gotcha.
So my high school football head coach was Kenny's quarterback trainer. So I'd known Kenny. We were talking on the podcast, like I had met Kenny when I didn't even know, like, Kenny was like young. He was like a little kid. Because I'm 27, Kenny's probably 22 now. So Kenny was like, I was in high school, Kenny was freaking middle school. But yeah, he's a special kid, man. I mean, he's a guy that's earned it. Like, I mean, think about how different his life is now than it was a year ago. It's just nuts. You know, being possibly the first quarterback pick. I mean, he's such a good guy. He's smart. He comes from a really good system. Mark Whipple, who was my head coach at UMass, was his OC at Pitt. So, you know, he's well coached. Got great accuracy. I mean, he's probably the most accurate quarterback in the draft. I think he's shown over this past season that he's a creator. And in college football now, I mean, the NFL nowadays, everyone wants a creator, right? So everyone's gone away from the mobile, the quarterback, the dual threat, to now, like, is he a creator or is he not? Because you get guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen, and you know, even guys,
Justin
Herbert, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yep. Read my mind. They're not mobile guys, they're not dual threat quarterbacks, but they're creators. And they can create plays with their legs, and that's what Kenny's shown he can do. He's athletic. He ran a 4.7 combine. He can move. He's nimble. And when Kenny scrambles, he really scrambles to throw. And which is what the NFL loves. I mean, that's the one issue with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray scrambles to run, when you got guys running downfield wide open for 60-yard chunks. You know, so I think he's shown that he can be that kind of guy. And, you know, I really do think he'll be the first quarterback pick. I know there's a lot of talk about Malik Willis right now.
Yeah.
I think he will be. And I think when a team looks at, you know, who's going to lead our franchise and who's the most ready to come in and play, I think it's Kenny. And the hand size thing, I mean, I get it, man. I as a coach, like a former coach, like, I mean, we looked at everything, you know, like you look at everything, and it's all just part of the puzzle, all part of the pie. And now, to different people and different teams, like, certain pieces are bigger than others. You know, there's, at some college football programs, they have an ideal size, and if a guy doesn't fit the ideal size, he's not coming no matter what. I mean, like, certain guys, for me at tight end, like, this is just how I was. If he wasn't 6'3.5", like verified measure, like, we wouldn't take him. Like if we're gonna miss on a kid that's too big, that's 6'6", and ended up being ended up whatever, rather than a kid that was 6'3" and miss on a kid that's 6'3". So that's an example of like, there's certain categories that some programs, some NFL teams may say, our minimum threshold is 9 inches for hand size, and if he doesn't meet it, we're not taking him. Like no matter what. So, and it just depends on what the philosophy of the GM and the owner and the head coach is. I think most programs and most teams run with the mindset of this is our preferred size, but you're willing to, if he's elite in every other category, we gotta take a chance there. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, it definitely, as a quarterback, having big hands helps. There's no doubt about that. But same thing with pass catchers that have small hands. I mean, I didn't have the biggest hands, and I had great hands, catching the ball. So, I mean, I think it's probably overblown. It's also like just a funny thing to talk about for the media, which is why blew up. Every year this time of year, it's hand size season. I mean, everyone talks about it. It's whether it's Joe Burrow or it was Christian Hackenberg. I remember when Hack was coming out, it was his hands, and it always ends up being hand size season. Kenny just got the short end of the straw this time, but he's a good sport about it. We talked about it on my podcast. He was having some fun with it, but I saw his girl or his fiance was tweeting about it or something like that. Or I saw she commented something like, I don't know how I'm going to be with a guy with some small hands. Like, but no, it's funny. But yeah, I think he'll be the first one picked, and he's a special talent.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett getting picked on for his hand size by all the media. So speaking about Kenny Pickett, I see a lot of scouts over the past really year or so say that he's one of, if not the most NFL ready quarterback. I kind of want to just get your thoughts on that saying, NFL ready quarterback. Do you think that's fair to put that assumption on players? For example, I know Justin Herbert was labeled the most NFL ready quarterback when he came out. He was obviously great. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. He's been up and down recently. Do you think that's a fair thing to put on these younger players going into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, what does it really mean is the first question. I mean, I think NFL ready, I think when people say that, they're alluding to the development they've had in college and the system they've come from. Kenny Pickett's come from a West Coast NFL style system. Mark Whipple was his OC, who comes from the NFL. Mark Whipple was an NFL system. He was the Eagles quarterbacks coach. He was the Steelers quarterbacks coach with Big Ben. So he comes from that system. Really Malik Willis comes from the Liberty offense, which isn't an NFL style system. To me, that's what they mean. I mean, I don't see the other big difference. Like, I mean, they're referring to just how smart they are, and that all just comes back to what they came from. You look at all the guys that they say are NFL ready, they come from like passing systems. Herbert, you could say like he came from the spread system, but if you look at what Oregon does and what Oregon did in his last year there, they were very much like multiple pro spread system. I know I use a few different words there, like a pro style that spreads it out and let him do a lot of stuff. But, he wasn't coming from like a run and gun. He wasn't coming from a triple option. He wasn't coming from the pistol. So I guess that's kind of what I think they mean when people say that, because you do hear that term all the time. And like, what does it really mean? So, but I think Kenny probably is the most NFL ready guy just because of the system he's come from. And it's on my podcast, I asked him, it's funny, this clip actually got played on Colin Cowherd's show yesterday. I asked Kenny, I said, are you going to be the first quarterback picked? And he was like, at it, like immediately was like 100%, like, yes, I'll be the first quarterback picked. And I said, well, why? And he talks about saying he's the most pro ready. It's funny that he used that term himself. He says, and he talks about the system he came from. He talked about how he took over a team that was 5-7 and took them to, winning a ACC championship. And, but it's just funny. He says that himself in the thing and then goes on to describe it. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting term. I love draft time because you just hear so many different terms that come out. Like, I mean, he's a great bender. What are some of the? Oh, he's a knee
high
bender.
High motor guy.
He's a waist bender versus a knee bender. Right? Trying to, what else they got?
Come up with every single term.
Every single.
You think he's gonna try
Stereotypical term.
you think he's gonna try a fake slide in the league? I mean, they don't have rules for that in the league.
He should. When I talked to him, I said, dude, I don't believe that like you didn't at some point like think that you were gonna do a fake slide at some point.
Yeah.
Like you didn't like plan that at some point.
Mhm.
And boy, he was like, dude, I'm telling you, it was not planned. He was like adamantly, it was like, I promise you. He was like, dude, I just in the moment, just like he said in the moment, he didn't think he was doing a fake slide. He just was like, he just thought he was gonna slide, and then like everyone stopped. So he's like, well, I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
He's like, I just thought it was like a stutter step, but he goes, I watched it on film, and it clearly looks like a slide.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just funny. I wonder if that's the prepared statement or if that's the real statement.
See, that actually proves my theory correct. After this happened, I went and I was like, I made a TikTok video saying, I think Kenny Pickett actually thought he was going to slide there. And if you watch the tape, when he goes and looks like he's about to slide, nobody comes up to tackle him. So it's like he had all that grass ahead of him. So yeah, I would have gotten up and ran too. But then again, I'm not a Division I quarterback. So obviously,
no, it's funny because he was very adamant. Like when I asked him about that, he was like very stern, was like, I promise. He was like, in a championship game, you really think I planned a fake slide? And he's like, and he just was like, yeah, he's like, dude, he goes, in my mind, like, I never thought that I just thought I was like slowing down. He's like, but I see it on film that I was actually like getting ready to slide.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just funny.
That is funny. Oh man. So one last question, then we'll let you go here. Cool. You were preparing for the NFL draft that Mike Gesicki came out of. Your friend Mike Gesicki, you were here, you were at Penn State with him. If you were healthy, who was going first? You or Mike?
I knew this was coming. I mean, probably Mike. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Mike was a much better athlete than I was. I might have been more of a complete tight end, but it's fine. I'm going to Miami Monday to interview Mike for my podcast. So that's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, we're gonna talk on there about if he's a tight end or a wide receiver, because there's a lot of controversy right now about that. Because you know he got franchise tagged as a tight end, and I think he wants that receiver money. So we'll see who ends up winning, because you know he doesn't even play tight end in the league really. He plays he really plays out wide.
He plays the you know, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews rule, where he's not you know, lining up to block anybody. Yeah, that's Mike Gesicki, one of the most. I have to keep pounding the table for him. I had to pound the table for Pat Freiermuth this year too. People didn't believe me.
Oh, dude, Freiermuth's a stud, man. He's a stud.
He got overshadowed by Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts' season in Florida when he was coming out. Like, people don't understand what Pat Freiermuth is about to be in the league. Like the Steelers, he could historically be talent wise. At the end of his career, he could maybe be the best tight end the Steelers have ever had. That's how talented this guy is.
I just did a video on TikTok about how Pat Freiermuth will end his career as I think the best tight end in the league. And let's just say I got a lot of flack for that one.
No,
from friends of mine in the league and from people on TikTok.
But Pat's somebody that could do it all. He can block, he can catch, he can run a little bit. He is so good, man. It was
such a good dude too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Such a pleasure watching him at Penn State, man. I was so. And so last comment on Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, funny story. Like we had the Pitt Penn State series. So my freshman, sophomore year. So Pitt, I watched both those games, saw Kenny Pickett live in Beaver Stadium. This was, 2 years ago. He was like nothing special, nothing stuck. Like there was no media attention around him. He came in, he played Penn State. It was a little bit of a close game, but like nothing to me stuck out about him. Nothing was special about him. So just to kind of see, and then freshman year, Penn State beat them like 51-6. I mean, ridiculous. Like it was a very enjoyable game. But just to see now, like watching Pitt this year, like, holy shit, that's the same number 8 I watched 2 years ago that had nothing special about him. That's how much he's developed, was just absolutely insane. That takes a lot for me to say about a Pitt player. That takes a lot for me to say. This guy, because just seeing where he was 2 years ago and seeing where he is now, night and day. So if he can develop that much in 2 years, I have no doubt this guy's going to dominate the league. No doubt.
I agree. It's been a crazy transformation for him. It's been nuts.
Absolutely. Adam, we want to thank you so much for coming on the pod here.
Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate your time. You're welcome back anytime. And we are so excited to see where your podcast is heading, where your career, it's just getting started. So thank you again.
We'll have to do this again after the draft. I'll hop back on and we can analyze some of the picks. See where some of the guys went.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
All right.
Love it.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
That was Adam Breneman, TikTok star in the making. Please go check out his podcast. Breneman Shows Up. Absolutely awesome stuff he's doing there. And we really appreciate him taking the time to come on the podcast. Awesome interview there. Let's shift over from some football to some stuff that's going on in the NBA land over there.
The NBA land.
Mr. the King, the chosen one, as is tattooed on his chest, will be missing the playoffs with this super team that he has built in LA. Luke, what is this like you said? I mean, Undisputed did the whole argument. Is this most disappointing team of all time? What do you think? Is it? Because honestly, there's some credibility to that statement.
Definitely disappointing. I mean, before the season, I think Vegas had them projected like 51, 52 wins or something, and to fall way under that, to fall even below 500. I think they're like, I don't 7 or so games under 500. Yeah, definitely disappointing to say the least. You had way bigger expectations with 3 top 75 players all time, 4, shoe-in Hall of Famers. Most disappointing all time. I don't know if I'd go that far. I'd have to really look at the teams. I'd have to really think about it. I wouldn't go that far. This year in particular, with how weak the West was towards the bottom of the rankings there, towards the 7 and 8 seed, you'd hope that the Lakers with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook would be able to get in there. Whereas like the East is way more competitive towards the end now, or towards the bottom, which is crazy to see that shift after all that time of the East being terrible. You'd wish that they would have made it. I'm not going to put it all on LeBron, though. I know my buddy Kevin, who listens to the podcast, is going to be fond of hearing that, because I hate LeBron with everything in me. But it's obviously not all on him. Injuries definitely hurt this team more than anything. Anthony Davis, he's injury prone, I think we could say, at this point in his career.
Gotta be able to stamp that on him at this point.
Yeah. And I don't know if he'll ever be the same, because just 3-4 years ago, even I thought he was a top 3 player in the NBA, but just can't stay healthy. And then just Russell Westbrook being involved with this team. I think I couldn't tell you one single person who saw that move immediately and was like, you know what, that's going to work. Yeah. Put Russell Westbrook on the same team where LeBron has been playing point guard pretty much, the past 2 seasons, and give him another ball dominant player. I said immediately that was not going to work. There was no way in hell. And it's just interesting because I can't remember what podcast. Of course I can't. But off the top of my head, there was a podcast. Someone said it was Magic Johnson. It was Magic Johnson of all people. Magic Johnson was on Get Up, and he said that the Lakers had the opportunity to get DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan wanted to go back to Los Angeles. He's obviously from Compton.
That would have been such a great fit.
Absolutely, especially with how he's been playing this year. He wanted to go back to LA. The Lakers had the opportunity to get him. And that's when, you started hearing things and rumblings about Russell Westbrook coming to town, and, Le GM has to have his guys. But yeah, it's definitely disappointing, but I'm not going to put it on LeBron. I mean, he had one of his best seasons ever, leading the league in scoring at age, 506 or whatever, however old he is. Is impressive.
Not too shabby at all. This team, like you said, like there was not a single person who, when the Russell Westbrook trade happened, who thought that was a good idea. I literally, as soon as I saw that, I was like, who thinks this is going to work? Putting LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, all these ball dominant players on the same team. And you think that's going to work? There was no chance in hell this was ever going to work. LeBron, it's not all on him, but at the end of the day, everybody knows who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Yeah. Everybody knows it is LeBron. It is LeBron. As much as you can blame it on Frank Vogel, you can blame it on Jeannie Buss, you can blame it on whoever the hell you want. LeBron is the one pulling the strings in that Lakers organization
Absolutely.
right now, as he does at every organization he's in. And it's worked sometimes, hasn't other times. This is a situation where it just, I have no idea what LeBron was thinking. Because at least other times he's done this, they've been competitive. They've been winning teams. Maybe they couldn't finish, maybe they couldn't close, but they were winning teams that got to NBA finals. So Luke, if he didn't win a championship in his first couple of years in LA with that 2020 bubble season, would this be like a legitimate tarnish on LeBron's legacy, like his Lakers stint here, if he didn't win that championship?
I don't think we could overlook an entire championship, although people say it's it
is the weakest of the championships he's won. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely with the opponent he was going up against, the Heat,
Yeah.
5-seed Heat, where Tyler Hero just got on fire, and
there's really no home court advantage. You're not traveling. You're in the bubble.
I mean, you have to look at it. His first year in LA, he was hurt. Which that was like the first time we ever really saw LeBron, the invincible guy, go down. And they missed out on the playoffs. The next year, obviously, they win the championship. Would they have won it if there wasn't a bubble and there wasn't a big time gap in between, the playoffs and the regular season? Who knows? But they did win the championship. And then last year, going up against the Phoenix Suns and really not even putting up a fight. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's tarnished his legacy, because he's been great when he's on the court, when he is healthy. He's had some bad games here and there, but everybody does. I can't believe I'm advocating for LeBron right now. This is making me sick.
I know. It's kind of funny how I turned this on you to defend LeBron. I'm kind of happy that I did that. Proud of myself for that.
Fucking sick.
This is entertaining.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I don't think you could dismiss a championship like that as much as I dismiss it amongst my friends and, just to play around. Championship is a championship that buys you 3 years in my book. Which, Toronto Raptors, we better get on it. Hold on, let me just flex my Pascal Siakam jersey real quick. Let me just flex.
How much did it cost, Luke? You want to tell the crowd?
Yeah, $200.
Damn.
I'm gonna be honest, it was an impulse buy too, because I wanted a throwback Vince Carter jersey. They only had mediums. I'm a hefty guy, so can't fit into a medium. Didn't even try. So I was like, I really want a jersey for this for the Packers playoff run, this Raptors playoff run. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a Pascal. Can't believe in a million years I would get a Pascal jersey before I get a DeMar DeRozan Raptors jersey.
Kind of shocking.
Yeah, crazy, but you know what? It's the life I choose to live, and can't wait to see Pascal, disappoint the playoffs.
Are DeRozan jerseys still available? Because I waited too long to get a Cam Chancellor jersey, and I can't find them anymore.
Can't find them. They definitely. You can probably get them off of a third-party website or eBay.
Yeah.
I kind of missed out. I have to get my Kyle jersey. I have a Kyle jersey, but the wrong number. I have a Kyle Lowry jersey where he's wearing 8 on the Raptors. That's when he first got there.
Oh,
and I was
wow. That's kind of neat though. That's limited. That's like a Jordan 45 jersey. Not many people have that.
Heard of that?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think, with all the controversy that surrounds him now that he's in LA, do you think there's a chance that LeBron doesn't end his career with the Los Angeles Lakers? Do you think he moves on, or do you think it's kind of wherever Bronny ends up, or what do you think?
Ooh, question here. I'll Uno reverse card on this.
Yeah.
On you. Is LeBron tanking and 5 years ahead of us right now, preparing the Lakers to go through a rebuild so he can get a top 10 pick in Bronny's draft?
My God. Get rid of take on Russell Westbrook's big ass contract, force the team to have to get rid of all of their good players. LeBron's working.
He is.
Wow. We're just not seeing the bigger picture.
That's the thing. He might be 3 years down the road right now. We're just looking, what's in front of us. And LeBron's no. I'm 3 years down the road here. I want my son to play for me, but I want to play with my son, but I also don't want to play with the Orlando Magic. So I got to make sure that he comes here to LA. So I'm going to make it look like we're struggling here. I'm going to injure Anthony Davis. I'm going to make Russell Westbrook play like shit. And then just in order to get this Lakers tank train going and tank for Bronny.
Yeah. Get old ass Carmelo Anthony too. I mean, Carmelo's been good. He's been a good role player for them.
Let's not throw shade at Melo.
I'm just saying.
I don't think Melo needs to catch a stray in this discussion. That's a little uncalled for. A little uncalled for.
I'll take that. I know. I'll leave it as is.
Yeah, we don't need to. Knicks legend. We don't need to. Did he necessarily help?
Atlanta Hawks legend.
Atlanta Hawks legend. Get his number up there in the rafters.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but no. I honestly. I think there's a world where LeBron is looking at the grass that's greener over there in Cleveland.
Really? Again?
Dude.
Goes back again?
It's up. That's a possibility. It's a possibility. He raised his kids in Cleveland. It's where he's from. He's from Ohio. To finish his career out there, I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's a crazy situation, especially with how bright their future is. Now, the only thing you got to worry about with Cleveland is because honestly, if he goes anywhere else, I think it's Cleveland. I don't think there's a debate about that. I think it's definitely Cleveland. Do
you think he would even fit in that team though?
No, he wouldn't. That's where I was going
right now.
That's where I was going. I don't know if Cleveland will want him. Now, I asked somebody that was a Cavs fan. Was it Anish? No.
Yeah, it might have
maybe.
Yeah.
It might have been Anish. I asked him if he would like LeBron to come back.
Yes, yeah.
If he wanted to. And I think LeBron, there's a chance LeBron wants to. And he said as a free agent, not through a trade. Because I don't think any Cavs fan, knowing what it would take to get LeBron, would want to give up those assets. Because it would definitely have to be one of their guards. And it honestly might have to be 3 draft picks. Like the demand for LeBron is ridiculous. So I could see him maybe going there in free agency, but which I don't know when his contract is up exactly with LA. But I think there is a world where LeBron does not finish his career in LA. I think there definitely is one. I think it's not. It's in play right now. It is in play right now. Like the situation here, like Luke, like what do you think is the only solution to this situation with the team he's built right here? It's to blow it up. Where are you going with Russ? Where are you going with Melo?
Yeah.
Where are you going with injured all the time Anthony Davis? Where are you going with them? You're going nowhere. You got no young talent on this team. You traded it all away so you can have this run and you won a championship. Okay, so you could look back in history and say it was worth it, of course. LeBron, you got to play for the Lakers, childhood dream. Okay. You got that. I don't think LeBron is somebody that very much cares about his legacy. He 100% does. And I think he knows that if this team continues to be driven into the ground, which it kind of looks like right now, because there really is no way the chemistry, even if these guys were healthy, like, would it be a championship team? They'd be in the playoffs. I could say that they'd be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Would it be a championship team or a first round exit? I would lean more on first round exit.
Yeah. I don't think they're competing with the Grizzlies. I don't think they're competing with the Suns. If the Warriors had Steph, I don't think they compete with the Warriors either.
Chance.
So
no shot.
You're looking, I don't know. Who's the 4 seed right now?
How the Clippers doing?
Clippers are 8 seed. Mavericks in the 4 spot.
They could compete with the Mavericks just because I think they would beat the Mavs. I think they would.
Okay.
If healthy.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they would.
No, I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I think the only way, first off, got to get off Russell Westbrook. There's no fucking way in hell you could ever play with Russell Westbrook after, the season ends. I think that's first. And honestly, like, if you're looking to rebuild and possibly, maybe get a Bronny to LA situation to come to fruition, like, I think you have to get off Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis, one, seems to be always injured, right? And even when he's on the court, he's not that top 3 player that he once was. He hasn't been that dominant guy that go out, bloodthirsty mentality. Like, he just wants to win. He hasn't been that. And I don't know what.
He hasn't been the brow.
This is, absolutely. This has not been defensive player of the year, one of the top 3 players, New Orleans Pelicans at his peak, Anthony Davis, at least since they won the championship. So if they keep going down that route, the definition of insanity is to, keep doing the same thing and expecting change, expecting a different outcome. I don't think you can move forward with either of those two, Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook. And I think it'd be particularly smart to get off Anthony Davis just because I think you'd be able to get more pieces around you.
100%.
Because they lost out on KCP. They lost out on Alex Caruso. They lost out on Kyle Kuzma, which were pivotal players on this team on past years. So you need to sort of have more of those role players, whereas now it's like Stanley Johnson. And I always call him Keanu Reeves, Austin Reeves. Yeah. You need more
John Wick up there. If they had John Wick, they could use John Wick now.
They could use John Wick. Oh my God. They'd be lethal.
Yeah.
Wicking
Literally.
the king.
Yeah.
Woo. But yeah. I think I don't know if he necessarily leaves LA. I think it'd have to take Bronny he's probably going to follow wherever Bronny goes. I think that really means something to him. That means more than a championship to him at this point in his career, is to play with Bronny. And I don't think that means play against Bronny, because I don't know as a father if you'd be able to do that. Like, especially when he's probably going to be more athletic than you at that age. Like, imagine if LeBron got dunked on by Bronny James.
I'm sure iconic. He has been at this point. He's had to be, like, because Bronny could dunk at this point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
maybe in the, in the driveway when they're playing, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure. Definitely. I mean,
I'm sure there's
a game,
a chance. Yeah.
I don't think he'd ever, I don't think he'd want to play against Bronny. I think he has to, be that mentor, get him on the right stuff, get him on the right step or right foot moving forward, and, get him into the league. It's interesting though. What about Bryce James? I've heard that Bryce is better.
I've heard Bryce is better. I've heard it's a LaMelo Ball situation that I think Bronny gets shit though. I think people like Bronny is still a top 40 recruit in the class. He's a 4-star recruit, top 40 recruit. I do not think he goes to college. I think he goes right to the NBA because the rules have changed. Is it high school again?
It's going to be high school in 2023.
So that might be his year. I think he's a junior right now, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know if it's next year. I think it might be the year after.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So LeBron is an unrestricted free agent in 2023. So are we putting the pieces together here where Bronny's getting drafted in 2023 so LeBron can kind of just go wherever Bronny goes? That might be interesting.
I mean, Bron said that he wanted to end his career. That's in LA. That's where he wanted to finish his career. But I think that's out the window if Bronny James gets drafted somewhere. Even 100%. If it's like, I can't imagine LeBron in like Detroit or like Sacramento or something like
LeBron James Jr., aka Bronny James, will be graduating from Sierra Canyon High School in 2023, which is coincidentally when LeBron's contract with the Los Angeles Lakers runs out. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
Wait, so graduating in 2023, that means he would
be in the 2023 NBA draft. Okay. So the 2023 is when the high school rule goes into effect, where you can be drafted.
I believe so.
So he'll be able to get drafted at high school. 100%. Really? Do I think that's the best thing for Bronny? No, I think Bronny needs to go to college. I 100% think Bronny needs the development of a year or two in college to go to the NBA.
I don't think he has that top end skill just yet to be, coming out of college and be a top draft pick. Maybe that's what they want though. Maybe they want him to fall a little bit so that the Lakers could get onto him.
Maybe LeBron is telling his son to suck it up a little bit in high school, commit a couple turnovers, only average like 11 points. Don't make yourself too flashy. Fall a little bit in drafts to the Lakers.
Listen, don't worry about money. Don't worry about money trying to be a top end pick because you're set for life already. Yeah,
you're set for life. Your dad's a billionaire. Like, come on. This isn't about money. This is just fun at this point for Bronny. It's just like, come on, come join me in the league. That would be like, what's gonna suck is that is actually going to impact Bronny's draft status. Like that's going to impact where he gets selected because you get Bronny, you get LeBron.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Oh, what if you're a team what if the team just doesn't want LeBron? Like,
at that point, a 39-year-old LeBron, 38-year-old LeBron.
If he's scoring 30 points at every game, this year, I don't think he's going to fall off too much. I mean, barring any injury, he'll still definitely put 20 at least.
Can you, it's a little trivia for you. Can you name the two other fathers? I can only think of two. Can you name the only two other father-son combos to play in the major four sports on the same team at the same time?
Shoot. I can't remember their name. I know the baseball guys.
Yeah, it is the baseball guys.
It's the baseball guys, and he caught the fly ball in front of his dad. I can't.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Why can't I remember their names?
Oh, I give it to you.
I'm gonna be pissed if I don't.
You're gonna be pissed. This guy is in the conversation for greatest baseball player of all time.
Yeah.
It's all right. I give you a pass though.
Ken Griffey Jr.
There you go. Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. played together on the. I think it was on the Reds. On the Reds, they played together.
On the Reds? I think
was it also on the Mariners?
I thought it was on the Royals. Maybe I'm just bugging.
No, it was on the Reds. It was on the Reds. I can't remember if they played together on the Mariners or not. I know for sure on the Reds they played together. Or was it on the Mariners that they played together? Jeez, Jake, I'm just getting all this fucked up now.
Wait, there was another combo in baseball?
Yeah, so hockey. Gordie Howe, Mark Howe, and his other kid. I can't remember. They played together on the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, definitely not getting that one.
Yeah. Ken Griffey Jr. played on the Mariners. All right. He's the former MLB player, Ken Griffey Sr. So they did play together on the Mariners. Okay. So Ken Griffey played for the Reds later in his career without his dad. Am I getting this right? Yes. Okay. So they played together on the Mariners. And then Ken Griffey Jr. played on the Reds later in his career, even though his dad played for the Reds at one point in his career. So they were played on the same team. Then Mark, Gordie Howe, and his other son, I can't remember his name. And LeBron James Jr. will be the third.
Listen, I can remember. I think that's going to be the most impressive father. Like being able to play basketball at first off, just such a high level for so long. And second off, to play that long is so ridiculous. That's one of the biggest accomplishments in sports.
Frank Gore almost did it. His son's in college.
Yeah.
He almost did. His son was in college and he just retired.
So, yeah. I mean, he got slept by Darren Williams. Should not have ever taken that money. Not a
good look for him. But
yeah, rough.
I don't know. I'm very interested. Like the 2023 NBA offseason is going to be nuts. Like LeBron, like just with that LeBron Bronny situation. And I think it's actually like there's a situation where Bronny gets drafted by the Orlando Magic and they Eli Manning it. And they just go, nope, trade us. We're not playing. Just nope.
That could be good leverage to trade to wherever like Bron is, like just hold Bronny hostage for a night. Just say, listen, wherever Bron ends up right there. That's where he's going. Probably get a hefty penny for him too.
Absolutely. That's true. Because there's some strategy there that NBA teams could benefit from. But all right, guys.
Free. You're getting the ideas free on that.
I know. If they only listen to this podcast, if they only listen, they so much, man. We should run the Lakers. We should just run NBA teams.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been known to win a couple Super Bowls in Madden and a couple NBA championships.
You already own the Packers, Luke. You can't. It would be a conflict of interest.
Oh, well, listen. If Aaron Rodgers can have stock in the Milwaukee Bucks and own the Chicago Bears, I should be able to do both as well. I should be able to do both.
Fair. It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We want to thank Adam Breneman for coming on once again. Be sure to go check out his podcast, available on all platforms, including YouTube. Breneman Shows Up. And Luke, if you want to wrap us up with some comments here, go ahead.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on all of our socials. I am Football Fan Zone. Jake is Jake_Maltese3. And Gage is Extra Points, as well as Adam Breneman, who goes by Adam Breneman81 on TikTok. Just got verified. He makes some great content. So go make sure to big move. huge move. So go make sure to check out his stuff. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave us a rating and review. Make sure to sub to us on our YouTube channel. Make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to do everything. I feel like I just lost my voice there. I feel like I'm saying everything at the end here. But yeah, great episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one.